All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, man, I don't know about you, but I'm still celebrating last night's win, right? The offensive efficiency, getting the ball into the end zone. Aaron Rodgers was just, oh, man, we talked about it last night, right? He was a surgeon out there, just threading the needle over and over and over, knowing where to go with the football, knowing when to check it down, escaping the pocket. The pass protection was great. The run blocking looked a lot better. The pass rush kind of emerged. Just it being 2-1 against a division rival, 2 wins coming against 2 AFC opponents. That's going to play a part in the whole divisional race in December when we start seeing that graphic, right? 2-1 going into an extended week, right? Extra days to play a Denver Broncos team with a rookie quarterback, assuming Bo Nix gets the start and he is healthy this Sunday, right? Coming out of the Sunday's game. So I'm excited. I cannot wait for the game, and things are good, right? Things are good in Jetland. But what was interesting was down in Carolina, right? Everybody knows what happened. Dave Canales went ahead and benched Bryce Young in exchange for Andy Dalton. So Dalton's going to be the starter from here on out. And really, since that moment, there's been a lot of people asking questions. There's been a lot of people looking at the Panthers saying, "What are you doing? What's the plan here? What's the plan here?" Right? I mean, the Panthers in the quarterback position, it is just, it's chaotic, right? This is a team that really runs through a lot of quarterbacks, just in like the last couple of years, guys that I can remember, Baker Mayfield, Teddy Bridgewater, years ago. They acquired Sam Darnold from the New York Jets, right? They traded away a solid package to go get him. Who else? They drafted Matt Corral, and I believe around 3 or 4. Clearly Bryce Young is the number 1 overall pick. And they're moving on after 2 games, Now, it's not to say that Bryce Young can't get back into the game. I'm assuming Bryce Young will be QB2, so in the event that Dalton gets hurt, or if Dalton looks terrible, we could probably see Bryce Young again at some point. But again, there's many questions that are being asked, like from a leadership standpoint, what's going on? From a quarterback standpoint, what's going on? From a vision standpoint, what's going on? From an ownership standpoint, what's going on? Are the Panthers... is this one of those massive, like, macro organizational decisions where it's like, you know what, Bryce Young and the Panthers, it hasn't worked up to this point. We're going to go in a different direction. We're going to take you and put you on the bench. If you blossom later in the season, if you look good in practice and we feel like you're going to, that you deserve another opportunity, we'll readdress the situation later. Is it a big decision like that? Or was it simply Dave Canales looking at the offense as an offensive-minded coach, somebody who's had success with quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, also with Russell Wilson back in Seattle? Is he just looking at the situation saying, you know what, I feel like if we had a vet in there, we can maybe get the ball out better, we can be more efficient offensively, and in turn, move the chains and score more points. As a head coach, there is a responsibility to every player in the locker room. It's not just a quarterback position only type of sport. You know what I mean? So there is a chance where Canales is just like, you know what? I just feel like Dalton gives us the best chance right now. And that's it. There's no more. There's no less to it. There's not this, Carolina Panthers idea, hey, you know what, we got to figure out how to move off of him, and this is going to be a massive ripple effect throughout the NFL. It could have just been a simple decision, right? Canales thinks he has a better shot with Dalton, and that's the end of it. But with that said, it has really sparked the trade conversation. Bryce Young addressed the trade conversation. He said he's actually open to being traded. And Dan Graziano of ESPN threw out a couple of trade suitors for Bryce Young: the Miami Dolphins, the LA Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, and the New York Jets. Now, this is kind of where I stand with Bryce Young. Despite it not really working out up to this point last season, right? 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, under 3,000 passing yards. I think he was like just under 2,900 passing yards. And there's questions about maybe size, moving forward, taking hits. Obviously has not really looked the best this season. 0 touchdowns, 3 INTs, 0-2, so far for Carolina, and of course the benching. Despite that, I still think Bryce Young has potential. I do not think he's reached his ceiling. And I understand that the size freaks some people out, and honestly, you're not necessarily wrong. He's 5'10". He looks smaller than every smaller quarterback that we've seen. The Drew Breeses, the Russell Wilsons, the Baker Mayfields. He, to me, looks a little smaller than Johnny Manziel, too. And Manziel was like the smallest guy that I've ever seen play the quarterback position at the NFL level. So there is concerns about that, 100%, because it's not like he's 5'10", 230 pounds, 240 pounds. He's more like 200 to 210. But again, with all of that said, I just think of Bryce Young back in college and really the things that made him a number 1 overall pick. Not many people questioned him. And I'm talking like national sports media. Not many people question the pick. Yeah, a lot of people like CJ Stroud, myself included. I liked Bryce Young too. But there wasn't this mass outrage when the Carolina Panthers selected Bryce Young. It was him and Stroud back and forth in every mock draft. It's not like he was projected to go in round 4 and the Panthers just shocked everybody and took up 1. There is talent there. I mean, going back to high school, right? 5-star quarterback coming out of, I think it was Modern Day. Bryce Young does have some really, really impressive traits. Again, going back to college where he was working with Bill O'Brien, his processing was, I felt, elite, like just fantastic. Ability to just toy with the defense, right? Come in, critical situation, right? 2-minute drive. They got to go down the field. Bryce Young walks in, smile on his face, like, dude, I got this. It's not no issue at all. Going up against top SEC opponents, I know exactly where I'm going with the football pre-snap based off this defensive look. I'm going to snap the ball, drop back while looking at the right. When my back foot hits on the 3rd step, I'm going to flip my head around. And I'm going to find the wide receiver 2 running a post over the middle of the field. And he's going to be wide open. And then you see that exact thing. Right, a perfectly thrown, accurate pass down the field for touchdowns. And it just felt easy for Bryce Young at the collegiate level. A quick release, right? Quick processing, mental, boom, boom. He can elude defenders. Everything about him was just quick, efficient. You never really had to worry about him. Never felt like the moment was too big. He was clutch. He was just an ultimate processor. Everything about him was just quick feet, quick release, quick processing. And he was fun to watch. He was really fun to watch. And at times it was like a little backyard football-y, but from top to bottom, I mean, he really did a lot. Like there were moments where you're like, this guy is special. This guy's special. And so far through 18 games here, we haven't seen that really with the Carolina Panthers. And there's been a lot of people coming down on Carolina, right, with ownership and the amount of times that they just kind of cycle through quarterbacks, like small sample size, not sold, see ya. We'll get this guy, small sample size, not sold, see ya. And it's just like kind of this revolving door. And there's articles being released now. Bryce Young needs to get out of Carolina if he wants to save his NFL career. We know the talent level on this Panthers team isn't it's not up to caliber to a playoff team. It's not being talked about as a team that's going to compete in December, January. It just isn't, despite, some of the moves that I was actually a big fan of, right? Robert Hunt, I thought that was a big time move for Carolina. I love the acquisition of Deontay Johnson. But when I personally look at Bryce Young, to me, it just feels as though he doesn't play. He's not playing with confidence right now. And at Alabama, he was like the most confident player on the field. Again, a walkout. Didn't matter what, how many timeouts the team had. Didn't matter the score. Didn't matter the time on the scoreboard. Bryce Young, like when he rolls out in the field, like you knew they were getting in the end zone. You knew they were going to be fine. And he knew it too. They would literally like close up on his face and he'd have this kind of look to him. Like, dude, like I got this, man. We're going to be totally fine. Don't worry about it. I'm driving the team down. It's not, a maybe, it's a fact. I'm getting in the end zone on this drive. And that's exactly what would happen. But for me, he's just not playing with confidence, right? You're seeing him like double clutch a lot. You're seeing him leave the pocket a lot. You're seeing him get hit. And you're looking at everything, from top to bottom. First overall pick, the pressure that comes with that, trying to turn around a team that just doesn't have a lot of talent. They hire Frank Reich. They hire Josh McCown, be quarterback coach. It doesn't work out. They fire Reich. They fire McCown. They bring in a second coach. So he's it's, what is he, 18 games into his NFL career, and he's already on system number 2 offensively. So it's kind of like him trying to reset on the fly in year 2, because it's not like he had a great understanding of that first year, because he's getting hit all the time, he's being rushed, and he's, you know, doesn't have a lot of talent on the offensive side of the football, and the defense isn't, you know, top 10 to where they're, you know, creating a lot of punts, creating a lot of turnovers, giving the ball back to Carolina's offense. It's just, you know, a lot of times, like, you're going to have to outscore the opponent. It's not going to be like 14, 17 games. Like, you're going to have to put up points. So all of these different factors are kind of playing into effect here. And will the Carolina Panthers trade Bryce Young? I don't know. I'll say this, though. I think the Jets, if Bryce Young becomes available, I would not mind if the Jets picked up the phone. You know, again, draft position aside, I know the number 1 pick is pretty crazy to acquire him, like, on a rookie deal. But when you talk about a situation where Bryce Young can go into and not really have that much pressure on him, right? To go and learn behind Aaron Rodgers, to have Tyrod Taylor there, a shorter quarterback, by the way, who's made it work. And it wasn't like Tyrod Taylor was the first overall pick. He was a 6th round pick out of Virginia Tech by Baltimore all those years ago, back in 2011. You know, he's had to make it work. He's had to really work his butt off to understand offensive football, to pick up systems. Tyrod has bounced around a lot. Ravens, Bills, Browns, Chargers, Texans, Giants. Like, there's been so many teams that Tyrod has been a part of. He knows how to pick up an offensive system. You know, the knowledge that Rodgers and Tyrod have between those two guys that they could pour into Bryce Young. Again, an ultra-talented guy, ultra-talented football player, I think will be really beneficial. Also, the fact that Bryce Young would not have to play. You know, you look at him from a systematic standpoint, I actually think he would really, really fit with what Nathaniel Hackett wants to do. Really fit. You know, the short passing, the dump offs and everything. If you want to talk about getting someone in that, you know, might not have a high confidence level at this point in time, just somebody who's been beat up, hit a lot, had to learn two different systems in again, 18 games here. He's been benched already. Like, I mean, you don't see guys get benched unless they're, you know, like the late round stopgap types of guys, like the Nate Petermans of the world early on in the season. And typically those guys are being benched for the number 1 overall pick, the first round picks, not the other way around. The first overall pick is not getting benched for, you know, older veterans. It just doesn't really happen like that. So, you know, for me, just as a fan, let's live in the hypothetical. Jets trade for Bryce Young in 2 weeks. Are you excited or are you pissed? Are you upset? I think for me, man, I would be pretty excited. I'm not going to sit here and say Bryce Young is the future of the Jets organization or anything like that. But what I am saying is you have a chance to go get a talented quarterback who fits this system, who you can stash behind Aaron Rodgers, stash behind Tyrod Taylor, take all the pressure off him for, let's just say, half a year here. And then next season, if Rodgers does retire, Tyrod's still under contract. You know, so if you still don't feel 100% great about Bryce Young's chances to start next year, again, assuming Rodgers isn't with the team, you can roll Tyrod out there. And, you know, I think a lot of guys, I think the national sports media, they're quick to write quarterbacks off. They're quick. I mean, they wrote Baker Mayfield off, and look what he's doing in Tampa. I think really for me, it just comes down to asking price. Right? What are the Carolinas going to sit there and be like, we want a 2nd round pick and a 3rd round pick for Bryce Young. We want a 1st. Okay, if that's the case, then no, I'm probably out. But if Carolina maybe just wants, you know, maybe like a mid round pick and a conditional pick swap in like 27, you know, I would definitely consider that. So, yeah, that's going to do it for me. Anyway, before we end the video, I did want to mention, so Foku is doing another limited bobblehead release. This time, it's Sauce Gardner, and it's limited to 124. And it's actually out right now, too, which is cool. So, anyway, I'll leave that linked down below in the description box. But, yeah, anyway, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.